It's Monday, and we're seeing red for all the major equity averages. Here in the U.S., the equity averages are lower, and we're seeing the Dow, Nasdaq, S&P 500 all off 1%. So joining me now is Peter Cardillo of First Standard Financial. Peter, thanks for joining me today.
Good to be back.
Well, we have a lot to discuss this week. Not only do we have the central bank meetings across the globe, an earnings report and economic data, but of course we do need to address what's happening in terms of the implications of the executive orders signed at the end of last week by the U.S. president. So what do you think this means for global markets?
Well, I think it's going to be a bumpy ride. Obviously, you know, the markets are very nervous over this, and as you can see, the markets are down substantially at this time. And I think that you know, the uncertainty factor is going to continue to increase as Trump continues to embark on these executive orders, and so the market is now re-questioning the new administration's the policies of the new administration.
And of course, Peter, we're referring to the immigration restrictions that were signed in at the end of last week. Now, that does indeed lead to a lot of uncertainty. So one thing for sure is that volatility does look like it's here to stay for now. We can't forget about the U.S. economic data we had at the end of last week, which was the GDP figures. And of course, we get jobs this Friday. But in between that, we have the Fed Reserve meeting and the rate announcement. So what will you be watching for?
Well, I think that the Fed is going to stay on hold. Obviously, they're going to take a wait-and-see attitude. And, you know, addressing the macroeconomic news of this week so far, we had several pieces of indicators that were pretty strong. We saw personal income go up by 0.5%. We saw spending go up by 0.3%, and we actually saw the inflator index move up. That is on the core basis to 1.70. And so basically, we're moving in line with the expectations of the Federal Reserve. Getting back to the Fed, you know, I think that it's safe to say that at least for this quarter and possibly until the latter part of the second quarter or the middle part of the second quarter, the Fed is not likely to move. And that's predicated all on the uncertainties over the Trump's economic plans.
And Peter, now that we've covered the U.S., I do want to shift our focus on over to the Eurozone. We got inflation figures and that weighed on the euro. But given everything that's happening in terms of elections, the political climate, what are you paying attention to from across the Atlantic? You
know, what's happening today, right now, brings back some old memories of what happened during the Nixon administration, when we had a good economy, but the fear factor over what may have happened or was going to happen over the Nixon administration weighed on the market, and for many days and months until they came to the resignation of Nixon, the market did not respond to the good economic data. And I have a suspicious feeling that what's happening today might actually be a repeat of what happened in the early 70s. Hopefully it's not going to happen that way. But you know, when you have a market that's going to be gripped with uncertainties and gripped with fear, the good news is put on the back burner, and the fear factor trumps.
Well, Peter, we are just at the beginning of this week, so I'm sure by the time we speak at the beginning of next week, we'll have a better idea of what to expect, and I'm sure we'll see plenty of volatility. So thank you so much for weighing in.
My pleasure.